Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. Welcome back to episode 44 of the Profitable Coach Podcast. Today, I'm joined by the beautiful Michelle Sorro, and I'm really excited about today's conversation because Michelle is one of those connections that I've had for a number of years. We initially met at a Tony Robbins event and have just sort of stayed in contact and really been going through really similar things inside of our coaching businesses, inside of our spiritual journeys. And so today, this conversation is really about tapping into that necessary bravery, that necessary intuition to really cultivate an aligned coaching business. And I love Michelle's transparency and her vulnerability as she shares how she created a 7-figure coaching business, how she paused it when she needed to revisit some really personal things in her life, and some of the revelations that she's had along the way. So if you're looking to really build something that feels authentic, that feels aligned, that feels purposeful and meaningful, and also pays the bills, right? Then this conversation is for you. So without further ado, please welcome the one and only Michelle Sorro. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. Michelle and I were having so much fun jamming off the air. I was like, we need to just hit record. Michelle, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to connect with you.
I'm so excited too. I know I love our conversation behind the scenes. And by the way, I was just noticing how appropriate and perfect and divinely aligned your last name is for the name of this podcast. I'm sure I'm not the first person to say it, but like, what is happening?
I just like to think it is my destiny to be abundant. It was my God-given birthright with this last name to feel abundance on all levels. So thank you for noticing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I've also tapped into that cosmic birthright. I'm like, true wealth is who I really am. And the moment that I started to experience what that meant for me internally, then it started to truly manifest on the external. But unlike you, I was born with a last name. Oh my gosh, I've never told this story, but my last name is Sorro. And when I was 11, there was originally a W on it, like the adjective, like the emotion, right? And I'm like, I literally went to my mom at 11 years old. I was in 4th grade and I said, Mom, that's not my last name. It can't be my last name. I am not sad. And so I would like permission to drop the W legally. And they were like, that's a great idea. So my whole family did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
Sometimes we just have to like change things up.
That is so cool. Wow. That just like anchors so deeply in the way that I already see you, which is like this trailblazer of light and this beacon for people who are wanting to choose differently, but kind of need a permission slip or a way shower. What a cool story. I'm surprised you've never told that before.
That is funny. Yeah. Why haven't I told that story? I'm proud of that story. And it is very much like some of my gifts, right? I have plenty of other areas where shadow is up, right? But like some of my gifts are like knowing what I want, honoring my boundaries, going for it. Like that has been very much my destiny as well. And you're right. I have the beautiful privilege of guiding a lot of women into that same empowered action, just that aligned action. It started young. Thank you for honoring.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very easy to see why you have found yourself in the world of coaching and leadership. And so I would love to give people a little bit of insight into your story. We first met at a Tony Robbins event, I think maybe once or twice, and we've just stayed connected over the years. And Michelle's always been one of those people that I can think of when I'm like, oh, this area of my life is evolving. I think Michelle went through something similar, and I can like go check on social media and be like, oh yeah, okay, permission slip. Like there's that P word again. So in a more formal way, how did you come to be in this position of helping other people to choose to be better versions of themselves?
Mm. Well, it's interesting that you brought up Tony Robbins because I used to frequent those rooms and they changed my life. And when I saw a documentary on Netflix in 2015, I think it was called I'm Not Your Guru. So many people saw that documentary. And it was Tony Robbins giving, God, what was his last name? I don't remember the director, permission to come and film Date with Destiny, his sort of flagship signature program. And there was something about watching that documentary where I just knew that I was supposed to go to Date with Destiny. At the time, all I wanted was to be full-time on Extra, an entertainment news show. And I had, let's see, when I saw the documentary, I was nowhere near that happening. And in fact, like didn't know anyone in that space, had been working in TV retail like HSN, QVC, like that was my world for 10 years. Incredible expertise to like, gosh, to learn how to sell live. It really helped me build a very successful coaching business early on. And so I'm deeply grateful for that direct response experience of live television retail. And, but at the time I finally got a ticket and I was going to go to Date with Destiny. It was the top of my bucket list in Florida. And it was a really big deal to have the money to go, to carve out the time to go. And by that moment, I had finally actually gotten a role on Extra. It was one day a week. I was doing TV retail. I had a little lifestyle segment, selling like products, products that we know, use and love, but nevertheless products. Yeah. But I didn't care. I was like, I'm here and I'm going to grow this. And by the time that I had a ticket to go to Date with Destiny, an invitation to the holiday party from the executive producers of Extra came my way. And it was at that time a big deal because someone who had a one day a week segment does not get invited to the holiday party. And so there was like this real like crossroads of, do I say no? And maybe that's it. They don't continue the talks that we were already beginning to have of having me become the weekend correspondent. So moving out of the lifestyle segment and into becoming a real host on Extra, which is all I cared about. Or do I go to Date with Destiny? And there was no way I was doing anything other than go to Date with Destiny. Not even a chance. So I go to Date with Destiny in December of 2017, and I have just one goal in mind. Tony, we never talked, but it was like, Tony Robbins, help me turn my little one day a week segment into a full-time, gig on Extra. And by day 5 of that event, you know how those events go, 5,000 people in a room of just unleashed souls, music, lights, just emotion, just broken down so that the truth can break free and break through. And I remember hearing a song called Sia's song, Chandelier, and it was blasting through the arena. And I dropped to my knees, literally crying because I heard a voice that said, you're not supposed to be on TV. That was your little girl dream. That was when you were 5 years old. That's all you knew, that would mean that you mattered and that you were worthy and that you'd made it in the world. Done that now. And now you're here to help others reclaim their power. And it was like, wait, what? This is confusing because it was just one track mind, one goal and only one goal. And I didn't really know where to begin, but it was just undeniable. And that was the first time I really began to listen to that kind of guidance. And so I shared it with my accountability partner that I had met at Date with Destiny. My buddy, yes, DJ, who are still dear friends. And DJ said to me, remember, this is 2017. Not everyone was podcasting back then. And he's like, you should start a podcast. And I was like, a podcast? I thought it was reserved for celebrities or mega brands. I was neither. And he's like, you need to have a podcast. And so what people don't realize is that my podcast came first. And so I was working on it for 6 months to get it up and off the ground. It didn't actually launch until June of 2018. But that was very much what I was working on. And then I went to another Tony Robbins event called the Unleash the Power Within event in Sacramento. Maybe you were there, 2018.
I was at your
You
Date
were
with
there.
Destiny and that UPW.
Oh my gosh. So the same track.
I was at all of those. I was crewing both of those events.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So how cool. And so it was that UPW where I left that UPW fired up, changed. I mean, and so I launched my first mastermind, my first paid mastermind from my iPhone at the Sacramento airport. Didn't have a website, didn't have a way to receive money to transact. And I just put in the Facebook group. It was, you remember back then it was the wild, wild west. There were no rules. There was no you can't promote, you can't market. So I was really gifted. I have to say my guides, my team, my divine team, they were really helping and supporting this mission that was pulling me forward that I was unaware of until Date with Destiny, because I said, I'm hopping on a plane. I want to invite 24 people to be in a mastermind. Here's the price. Here's the idea. Let's keep this alive. Let's keep going. Because there was no accountability. There was no mastermind. Dean Graziosi was not in the picture yet. And by the time I landed, 1 hour later, 50 people said I want in. So I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I get this going? How do I collect money? And so my sister, she was so cute. Create a PayPal link. We didn't know what to do. Anyway, long story short, it's been a very,
business
very,
advisor.
very fulfilling.
I love it.
Yes, she was. That's how it started. And so, 6.5 years later, I'm truly in my dharma. It's evolved the more that I have evolved, and it's clearly shifted. I don't do Tony Robbins rooms anymore. They just don't resonate. I'm really grateful and have a deep bow in my heart for what I learned and who I met in his rooms. But it's just, it's just been a beautiful evolution ever since.
I love that. I mean, what I'm hearing is that, so I'm going to share a takeaway from a recent mastermind call that I was on. Someone came on as a guest expert, and I think he'll actually be coming on this podcast soon as well. But he shared there's these 3 levels of consciousness in business. Willful consciousness, where it's kind of that Gary V hustle. I'm going to make 150 cold calls, make it happen. Intellectual, where you're all about what is the strategy, what's my funnel look like, what's the tech stack on the back end, let's make sure all our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. And then intuitive is less thought, more action, messy inspired action, just trusting that the path will reveal itself. And really, that is what I hear that you did with that mastermind, and I imagine you've done many times since. And so I'd love to hear more examples of you leaning into not really knowing what the next best step is, but just trusting, and how it's
actually,
been reflected back to you.
I love that. That's really great. Willful, intellectual, and intuitive. I have never known the intellectual part. I am the least tech savvy person in the world, and I've built a multiple now 7-figure business, since. And the first time I launched a digital course, I went through like everyone, Amy Porterfield's training. She's still my favorite mentor in that particular space. She is what I call the Rolls Royce. She just has 4,000, 5,000 people going through it at once. And so I teach digital course creation, but in a group of maybe 20, where I know everyone, check their work and offer up feedback. But one example of getting my first digital course off the ground, I found out about Amy Porterfield, who also used to work for Tony Robbins. There's a theme here. I want to really honor that man and his teachings and his inspiration. But I was maybe 2 modules in, and I was I can't learn this way. I'm not going to do it this way. And so it was I took imperfect, messy action, and I created what I called a laboratory. And it was just it's a little case study. It's a pilot. I'm going to give you a really big discount. And I based it off of, I started to consult. So I had all this expertise of live TV retail, and I had sold $220 million worth of products on live TV. As a lot. And so I really knew a thing or two. And then a lot of brands all around the world started hiring me and to be their consultant, to either get on Shark Tank or to ramp up on QVC or HSN. And so I used to charge $5,000. I would meet with those clients 3 times, and I would audit their inventory, their pitch, their presentation. And then I would really help them just hone their presentation, because they had to have everything else going for them. But now let's make it shine, right, on live TV. And so I was trying to figure out, people were calling me all the time because they started hearing like, oh, sales were transforming, things that were stagnant were now moving. And I had some really, really big clients like Lancome and Trish McAvoy. And like, so it was like, okay, she's the girl. She was on air. She's no longer doing it. She's available for consulting work. But I wanted to take that model and help aspiring coaches. How do I take that one-on-one model into a one-to-many model? And I really didn't know how to do it. So I invested in Digital Course Academy. Okay, I'll build this digital course. But then it was like, I don't know. It needs to be more fluid, more organic. Nothing about this. It just feels too stale, too intellectual. Yeah. And so a friend of mine, again, we're always guided. Do we honor those nudges, right? Do we listen? Do we pay attention? We ask for signs, and then oftentimes we're like, I need a signier sign, right? And so I had a friend who was already well into her digital course business, maybe 5 years, Jacqueline Malone. I want to give her a shout out. She's the go-to gal. She's very, very successful. And I don't even know how we met, but somehow we got connected. And she was important in that first year of my path because she was like, you just need to just go launch it. And I was like, how do you just launch? She's like, let it be messy. Let it be imperfect. Tell your community, I'm going to base it off this $5,000 model. You're going to get it for $500. I'm going to put a small group together. I don't have a workbook. I don't even know how it will go. But if I've done well by you, I would appreciate your notes and a testimonial if I've earned it. That's how I started my coaching business. I don't really call it a coaching business anymore. I don't really resonate with that term. Sorry, Profitable Coach Podcast, but more like a guide or a mentor. But we learn as we go. Who am I? Who am I, in this space? And that's for us to discern and to decide. And anyway, I ran 5 labs. 5 labs. I just kept refining and refining, getting feedback and feeling into what feels most resonant for me in a one-to-many model. And then I finally launched that program, and it's turned into that's a signature course. It's generated many, many, many 6 figures. And I'm really proud of that course. I still love teaching that course, but it started imperfect, messy. I had no idea how it would go. And I think that's the hardest thing is people think they're going to be ready. Just get certified, just get a little more experience, just get a little more one-on-one. You'll never feel ready. It's a lie. It's, you know this, right? Intuition will trump all of the strategy in the world, and more so presence, frequency, vibration, all of that. It's a learning. It's an evolution. You start where you are, but you just allow yourself to take imperfect action.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm curious for the people who resonate with not being tech savvy and wanting to take the messy inspired action, but still feeling a little blocked by some of the technological expectations that people might have about a digital course. How did you overcome it? Did you outsource it? Did you use a very simple platform? Like, what did that look like?
So it's a good question. And I'm teaching a course on this right now. It's not open, but we're halfway through, and they're navigating this journey as well. I went right away to Kajabi. I just did because that's what Amy Porterfield taught. And I just decided to listen to one mentor. I think what happens to a lot of emerging, aspiring coaches is they listen to too many people. So you guys are here, listen to what Kim has to say, right? And just focus or take what lands and ditch the rest. Yes. But what I now teach, especially for the first year of businesses, you don't need Kajabi. You can record on Zoom or Riverside. You can share those links and put them in a little Google Drive folder. You can teach your first class, which is usually 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks, which is when people are getting started. Just organize them in a Google Drive folder, follow up with some notes, maybe on a PDF. Via email, you got a course. It does not have to even cost you anything. People overthink and they think it needs to be polished and perfect. Nobody's looking for perfection. Everybody's looking for real. Keep it simple, and clear, right? I am a clear teacher. And I try to 3 bullet points for each module. And I love the Post-it notes. So just another thing that I learned from Amy Porterfield, and I still teach it to this day, is trying to come up with the content for each module, use some Post-it notes, color coordinate them, try to see, am I teaching that in module 6 that's actually taught in module 2? Why don't I marry that, put it in module 2? Just condensing through a Post-it party is what I teach. Just simplifies it, adds for more clarity, but none of this needs to be fancy. I took a $5,000 course 2 years ago from a spiritual teacher. He did not use Kajabi. He sent Zoom recordings to the cloud. He had a PDF follow-up, just like what I'm saying. It was a $5,000 program. Like you get to do it however you want to do it. Truly, just do it. That's the whole point, is do it.
Yes. This is like one of my favorite broken records to be inside all of my coaching containers at Transformation Academy, is just take the messy inspired action. My friend, who happens to be the fiance of my mentor, whenever we're getting ready to have mastermind calls with her, he tells her ahead of time, he's like, don't even let them ask questions. Just tell them, go take action. Like, go make an invitation, go invite someone into something. That's all you need to do. You'll get your question answered.
It's very true. And, I actually want to give some honor to my lifelong mentor turned friend and now dear collaborator, Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Jack Canfield, who also wrote a #1 New York Times bestselling book, many, but this one was called Success Principles. They're in their 20-year anniversary this year. But success principle number 13 changed my life. It's the only one that I remember, to be honest. And it's take action. But there's this little subsection in that principle chapter. And it's rather than ready, fire, aim. All of us are getting ready, another certification, another degree, another testimonial, getting ready, right? And he was like, no. Let go of that, to your point, right, Kim? And he was like, fire, ready, aim. In other words, fire, let it be messy, let it be fun, let it be exciting, right? And then when you fire, like, oh, how could I refine that a little? How could I make that a little bit more precise? But we won't know until we take the action. It's the action that provides the clarity. It's the action that cultivates the confidence. And we can say it all day long, like the broken record that I know you probably have been. People won't hear it until they're ready to hear it. On some level, their soul is like, okay, that's it. But at the end of the day, it's like, why aren't you taking action? That's a really good question to take into your heart. And what I have found, and this is just what I'm going to put out there, a lot of people think they want to be a coach. They don't really want to be a coach. They don't really want to do it. It's a big call with everything that goes on behind the scenes. So I have helped a lot of people actually get off that track, remove themselves from that pressure and expectation that comes with a lot of shame of, why haven't I done it? It's like, because you didn't really want to do it. You just got excited by seeing someone else do it and thought that you could just create that instant success. It's not that way. It is hard work. It is a devotion. It's a complete commitment. And if you can't even take the action, get curious about that and get real about that. And maybe it is just that, like, okay, I got imposter syndrome. I'm worried about what others will think. And if that's the case, then go take the messy action. But if it's that, like, I don't really know what I would say, I don't really know how to guide, maybe you really aren't supposed to be a coach. Like, I just want to put that out there, because a lot of people get hooked on this identity that that's what they want, but they don't really want it. They want what it looks like. Does that make sense? It's kind of like relationships for people.
Totally.
I want that relationship. Gosh. No, you don't. No, you don't. Right? So I'll just pause because I imagine I just opened up a can of worms. Wait, what?
No, I said, right. That relationship actually requires a lot of work, a lot of behind the scenes that you don't know about, and that isn't posted on Instagram or wherever. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that there's a lot of shininess about what people think it means to be a coach, where what they're actually seeing reflected back to them is, oh, I'm seeing someone in their power. I too desire to be in my power. I'm seeing someone do something that is allowing them to grow. I want to grow. And maybe that's being a coach, but maybe it's not, And then also on the flip side of that, maybe you actually don't want to grow as much as is required to be a coach, because it is a life of transformation that you're signing up for. It really is.
Yeah. And the other part too, just to add to that, because that was so beautifully said, it is a lifetime of transformation. It reminds me of the very first time I went to a Tony Robbins Business Mastery, which was in 2018. There was a lot happening in those few years.
Oh yeah.
And were you there at that Business Mastery as well?
I wasn't. No, I haven't been to BM. Yeah.
Okay. But I remember hearing Tony say something. He was pacing the stage and we were working on some exercise in little triads. And he said, don't forget that all entrepreneurship is a spiritual job. And that forever changed me, because I didn't fully understand what that meant yet, because I had generated $35,000 in my coaching business that since March to August. I hit my first six figures by the end of that year from what I learned in business mastery. So deep bow again to Tony Robbins and what he opens up for us if we can seize the moment.
Already.
But the spirituality around being an entrepreneur and a coach and owning your own business, it will put you up against your edges. The mirror is out again and again and again. And all of our sabotaging thoughts and worries and concerns about what others might think, and do they really like me? And if we haven't begun to, to really step on that path of self-love, self-trust, it will destroy people, right? It nearly destroyed me because I did not have any of that stuff in my field of awareness back then. But what I would invite anyone listening to this part, if this is kind of snagging you, is really start to look at like this desire to be a coach and what it looks like. And also how deep is the self-love, right? And the self-awareness and the self-trust, because those two go hand in hand, and it will amplify wherever the shadow is. But even that is a beautiful gift and a beautiful teacher. But what can happen, and this is the point I was trying to make, is there can be a lot of ego that's very snakester, and it looks like it's highest self. It looks like it's all like altruistic, but really what happened is ego hijacked the highest self's intention. And so then people start to buy their followers, buy their podcast downloads, buy their reviews. I know a lot of people who've done that. And God bless them. I don't know how they sleep at night, but I also recognize what drives that. It's deep, deep fear, right? And need for approval and need for love, really, and validation. And so just, I don't know, build it slow, go organic. If there's anything that I can say now where everyone can buy everything and present as if you have the picture that you see on social media from someone else, do the work, earn it, build it, create it. Universe will reward that 10x. Are you experiencing any of that in your world?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I think that one of the reasons I have such a reverence for my mentor is that she is equally as good at sharing the realness, the humanity, in a way that's very elegant and not victim-y at all, as she is at celebrating the big wins, the multi-million dollar months. And so that feels like the biggest permission slip for me, because her humanity is just as celebrated as the like quantum leaps. And that is something that I kind of need the constant reminder of, because I do have some wiring that needs to be unraveled in terms of like fully allowing my humanity and knowing how to continue to show up when I'm sort of like in the chrysalis. And so I'm curious, those dark nights of the soul that I know you've experienced over the past 6 years, how did you manage to keep the business going? Or how did you relate to your business during those times?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I've been through, I don't even know how many dark nights of the soul in the past 3 years specifically. And yeah, I know. This is why we've connected.
Yeah.
When the lockdowns happened, when the world thought it was, I'll just call it a pandemic. I'll just say it as it is. That's my experience, and I get to own that.
I love you.
And so,
I love you.
Right? Yes. And so I was living in Los Angeles. I'm still in Los Angeles. I am moving finally in 6 or 7 weeks, but I really had to just be with that and just, and I didn't want to let California go. She's been a soulmate, but now I'm excited to see what's on the other side of this relationship. And now that I'm available for something else. And anyway, yeah, right. And so, but when I started to see that there was a different narrative than what was being played out on the television, I had a profound reckoning, deconstruction / awakening that's not finite. It's an ongoing experience, and it just gets deeper and deeper. My whole life changed. That was basically August of 21. Well, it was really the beginning of 21, but I won't. Yeah. Oh, really? Cool.
Oh,
yeah.
Full body chills, Michelle. Yeah. Like, I can't wait to connect.
Wow. Well, I was in a really fancy schmancy mastermind and a business mastermind. Everyone in there was already at 7 figures a year. I wasn't at 7 figures a year. And, of course, that's the trap. I'm just going to say, like, that's the trap that I recognize now of just the 3D, like, it's bigger, bigger, better, better. And so all those people in there, they wanted to be doing multiple seven figures. And then all the people that I knew that were doing multiple seven figures wanted to be in eight figures. And I was just like, this is bananas. But the reason I was in the mastermind that I can look back on now is because I was supposed to meet this one woman that we have no connection since. It was a dinner. It was a fancy hotel thing in Sedona for 3 days. You know, all of us got together a few times a year. And she opened up what I call the red pill door. And I courageously walked through it. She gave me a couple of resources. I started listening to those podcasts, following those YouTube channels. And then I basically had like a psychotic break, you know, a nervous breakdown. I mean, I was in the apex, Los Angeles. We had a 10.5-month lockdown, the strictest and longest of anywhere in the nation. I mean, what I didn't know then is that Ventura County, Orange County, which are the bookends of LA County, they were open after like 3 weeks. I didn't know. But I also knew that what was being shown on television could not be the full story. So there was something cracking through. And anyway, it was very, very challenging. I definitely had suicide ideation. You know, at that time, if you got into alternative media, you were worried that you were going to be pulled from your home, force jabbed. I'm just going to be super intense because this is the mindset, dark night of the soul, and then taken to some sort of entrainment camp. Almost everyone that I know had that fear because it was everywhere to keep us full of fear, to do the thing that they were telling us to do. And I still refuse to do it. So I'm really honoring my sovereignty at the time and continue to double down on that. But by August 9th, I had just remodeled my condo the year before to the tune of $50K, new kitchen, new bathroom, all new interior design. And I called my mom and I'm like, I have to leave. I can't stay here. I need to come stay with you for like 7 days. I stayed for 10.5 months and I never went back to that place.
Wow.
Yeah. So then in September, I could not podcast for a few months. I could not show up. I could not open up any invitations because I didn't know who I was. I was in, you call it the chrysalis, I call it the caterpillar soup. You know, I was just in it. And so then I remember at the time, if you spoke truth, you would be canceled, you'd be censored. And I just knew with hands shaking that I needed to share my truth on my podcast. And I did. And it was called Taking a Stand for the Truth I'm Here to Serve. And I started speaking about my experience, and my podcast grew by like 100%. And then it grew by like another 100%. And then it grew. So it had this massive growth. But that still didn't stop all my like, what do I do next? So for the next 10 months while I was at my mom's, which I look at as a spiritual rehab, I didn't even think that I could charge because I was having a genuine spiritual awakening while going through the reckoning. It was such a wild, intense time. And I didn't know how to charge. Like I didn't even know how to get a pedicure. I felt guilty. Like how could someone scrub my feet? Like I would cry like, I can't have them scrub my feet. I said to my mom, it makes me still cry. Like, how am I supposed to charge? How can you charge? Like, it felt wrong. It felt so inverted, so distorted. Like, what is happening? Why are we so greedy? Why? I didn't.
Because the
wow, I did
pendulum
not know this
swung.
was so deep. It's still so deep. And so for the next year, thank God I had so much savings. And so I think I might have generated 30K that year because I did have a launch that I had to keep because it was with Jack Canfield. And so that was on the marketing calendar. But anything else, like I really couldn't do. I just couldn't. So my answer is I was stopped. I couldn't drive my car for about 5 days. I forgot how to drive. All I could do was just hang out in my mom's backyard or have her take me to the park because my pup needed to play. And the trees that were actually archangels Michael and Metatron, these huge pine trees in this park, they taught me how to root. So for like 10 months, I just went to that park and just sat in the park, couldn't talk, So my journey was wild. But what I want to say for those who might be scared, the podcast was growing massively. It was like I went from like 2,000 downloads per episode to like 10,000 downloads per episode. It was really striking a chord. It was helping so many people around the world not exit the planet prematurely, know they weren't alone. And then from there, I started to realize there's something else that wants to come through. And that's when I decided to own my spiritual awakening, awareness, intelligence. And I started to weave that into all of my offerings. And so now everything I do is all spiritual. The word is in there, spiritual business mentor. But the truth is that journey had me face every fear, every shadow. And because I was so devoted to, in such an authentic way, no drinking, no smoking, let go of all of that, started to delve into plant medicine in a very reverent way, like total respect and honor for the sacred plants and the wisdom. And my altar, I replaced my television with an altar. So like I've been on this path now for 2.5 years. And so now what I teach women is how to be in divine alignment, face your fears, be with the shadow, honor the fact that shadow is a master teacher. Because what I didn't know then that I can share now, and then I'll pause, is that what I was seeing play out on the macro was all that was happening on the micro that I was not present to. And anyone who's done deep conscious work knows that's true. But until you're willing to face that, you have no real concept of that. And so then I was like, oh, the more that I do the deep inner work and then I integrate that and I embody that for real, then whatever's happening in the macro has no power over me. So then the reclamation of power that we hear everyone talking about, what does it even really mean if it's not fully embodied, right? And so that became my number one quest. Like, okay, you want to build a coaching business? Let's start here. Nervous system, heart, fears, all of that. And then let's begin to listen to the divine directives, cultivate the courage to honor those calls, take that path, not ego, drop into the heart. And it's been so beautiful. So now my business, just to button it up with positive, it's all positive. Over last year to this year, my business is like 3x'd again. So now I'm in like the 2020 numbers, but in total alignment with what I'm here to do, which is to really create more light workers, light warriors and ambassadors and way showers of the new earth. And it comes through similar offerings, but yet the context and the texture and the tone is a completely different experience. And I know you must understand that.
I do. Yeah, this is such for me because the timing is insane. Literally August 2021. Wow. I was told that I needed to get the you know what, or I was going to be fired. And so in a matter of seconds, I had to say on the phone call, I'm not going to get this thing by tomorrow. I haven't had any opportunity to research it because the position I was in at the time was leading luxury cycling trips. So I was full, like 24 hours a day, you're on for 12 weeks straight. And I knew in that moment, this is bigger than this one decision. I don't know what that means, but I was like standing in a DSW parking lot and I just started like sobbing. And I was like, this is huge. My family stopped speaking to me, wouldn't see me. Most of my friends were like, you can't come be around us. What are you doing? And then I found this community of people who basically, I would say, red pilled me and led me down what became like the most intense spiritual journey. And even still, I feel like I'm in it because that group that I would call my soul tribe, I mean, I thought they were going to be around forever. I know we've done many lifetimes together before. I'm no longer really connected to them. And it's like continuing to be the mirror of like, what is happening out there is not as important as what's happening in here. Like everything you're seeing out there, whether it's in the business, in best friends, in a partner, all of that has to come from in here and from spirit and like your connection to what cannot be like held in your hand, you know?
That's right. That same knowing and that same courage that I really want to honor you on. I got the full body divine tingles, you know, when you said I was in that DSW parking lot and I knew that this was bigger than this one decision. It is. And what you just shared really, really makes me feel tender. It's so potent because no one talks about like the Russian doll effect of like all the splits. First, it seemed like, okay, the split of just two decisions, do or don't do, right? But then there were all these other splits of like, wait, what? And it was so calculated, so deliberate, and it's just like, so then I'll tell you, like last year, I was still in so much pain and suffering around that. I've lost so much. That's the way that I was still looking at it. And where I am today now is like, oh, there's so much more alignment, right? But I've also transformed my mindset of like thinking that it needed to go one way for anyone. I've gotten so much more awareness around everybody's on their own journey, their own soul contract, and that's between them and God. And who am I to judge? My own father did not make that same choice despite having all the information that I had and asked for it over and over and over again. But he was supposed to make that choice for himself. And so now I just want to be in the oneness, right? I want to be on the unity timeline and not separate, because everybody is me and I'm everybody. And, we can have preferences of who we want to hang out with, but just really beginning to look at this oneness, concept. What does it even mean? And how honest are we about that? And I'll let you know, because it's an ongoing journey, but that's the authentic ascension. That is the true ascension, is living in our hearts, predominantly no judgment. That's it. That is moving up from the lower three chakras of me, mine, and I, moving into the heart of we, us, ours. And so that's the space that I'm in. It's like anything that I do has to be in the highest and best for all. It's not about me. And that's what I guide. And that's just where I am. And so thank you for having this conversation today, because I forgot what a wild journey it's been. It's been humbling. It's been expansive. And honestly, I wouldn't change a single thing about it.
Yeah. I mean, I look at what it is that I've leaned into over the past 6 months since those friendships started to, crumble. And I'm like, I am so happy with the person that I'm becoming. And I wonder if I would have been becoming her if I had these friendships to like lean on the way that I had been. I mean, we've talked about like giving up alcohol. Like there's so many different ways that I'm choosing into a different way of being. And I just trust that like coaching and bravery and, all these things, they all go hand in hand.
1000%. And here's the other thing too, is that the people that are meant to be magnetized to your magic, your medicine, your offerings, your coaching, right? They're going to resonate with you based on your frequency and based on the work that you're doing. And so that's why I look at some of my older friend groups, and they're drinking and partying more than ever, of course, right? Numbing out. It's a tricky, challenging time to be on the planet. And if you're not conscious and checked out, and I get it, or buying all the downloads and presenting as if you'd earn, the million downloads on a podcast as an example. And I'm like, wow, but there are going to be people that magnetize to them, and they're the perfect guide for the people that are being drawn to them, right? Because I know who I used to be drawn to, and I wouldn't be drawn to certain mentors of mine in the past. So it's just like so perfect. It's like, just trust, keep going, let go of what no longer aligns, begin to discern in the deep listening, and have the awareness of, is that ego? Is it higher self? And that's a whole learning curve. But when you get there, you just realize that, everything is aligned, and it just becomes a really magical time. So thank you for shining the light on that.
Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation. One of the things that's standing out, because I do get asked this often, is like, when you are offering someone something that is somewhat intangible, if we're not selling a specific ROI on a business or whatever, how do you present that? And I feel like I already know what you're going to say, but I would love to just hear it from you anyway.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm so curious what you think I would say, so you can share that in a moment. But I would say that's such a good question, Kim. Yeah. That is what I think I struggled with for a good 18 months, when I wasn't selling anything. And then I was coming out of this really intense sort of chrysalis caterpillar soup. How do I now make a tangible offer? And the truth is that it just didn't resonate. I couldn't go back to the 3D, marketing and promoting from that old paradigm. I just couldn't, with just being in complete alignment with the divine. And so what I came to realize, and this is, again, you can't think about it, you just have to be it. And so what I came to realize, based on just the benefit of hindsight, was I had to embody it. There's that. And the embodiment of the vibration will be the biggest beacon of light. It will be the lighthouse. It will be the lantern. And those that are meant to find you will find you by you radiating with complete authenticity. And the other thing that I did is, I used to have 100-person groups. I'm not judging anyone who has those. I realized, oh, that no longer works for me. I want to know everyone intimately. I want to know their shadow. I want to know their gifts. I want to know their name and their kids' names and their pets' names. And so what I did is I used to run programs that were $333. And over the course of the last like 9 months, I transformed that offer into a $7,500 offer for 6 months, or you can join me for a year for $15K, sold out with no marketing. Again and again and again. So, but I only take 8 women through that experience, right? And so people were like, how can you do like, but it was like, oh, I'm going to go way more deep and narrow in the intimate way. I'm going to trust my worth. I'm going to trust my journey, and I'm going to radiate through the embodiment of this. And you can't fake frequency. People know it. You can. And those who are not meant to discern, they will go, and there's no judgment on that. I know a lot of people that fake it completely, who they are, right? And how they present. That's their path. I got no time to judge that. It doesn't serve me to judge that. What instead I do is focus on, where am I out of alignment? Where am I not authentic? Where am I judging? Clean that up again and again and again and again. It's a daily practice. And then again, just embody that. And it's been life-changing. So is that what you were going to guess? The embodiment of the vibration?
Yes, literally.
Yeah. There is no other way.
That was the answer that I gave. And I was like, I'm willing to bet that that's exactly what she's going to say.
And I think we're going to see more and more and more of that, right? The light workers, the light warriors, the healers, the medicine women, even if we're not called to facilitate the medicine, but I hold a lot of sacred space where I bring in facilitators of medicine. It's like, whatever that is, if that feels like it's a call, trust it. Because in the next few years, especially, people are lost. They're floating. They're disassociated. They're overly medicated. They're highly addicted because they don't know how to navigate this time. It's tough, right? And people don't have access to these self-development spiritual tools. So they're going to be seeking people who are embodied. So you may as well start the path now and become authentically, engaged and present to this and not faking it, because our businesses, and I don't even use the word business, our communities, they will grow. We will merge. We will combine. We will collaborate. That's the new earth. And I know that, and I'm watching it play out, and it's just so beautiful, but we must be sincere and earnest and reverent on this path, because the universe doesn't mess around. You can't fake this stuff. But when we really honor it, there's going to be people that are lined up to be under our guidance, and even the deeply intimate, more expensive containers, they will pay for it. So that's just another thing that I wanted to add, is that we can do that, but we have to know our own worth.
100%. And then that even means allowing the periods where you don't necessarily feel as embodied, where it's a hard, like, dark night of the soul, and recognizing that even that moment, that period of time, is there to serve you. It's either there to help you shed old ways or to help you better teach and guide people who are going to be going through that themselves. And
it's so beautiful.
That's all welcome.
And yes, all of it belongs. I've always said, well, not always, the last 2 years, shadow and fear are master teachers. So when that frequency is up, and we all know it, mine feels turbulent, it feels, dense, it feels heavy. I just, scattered, just not present and grounded in my body, and certainly heart not open, right? We all know these types of things. So the question that I like to pose, and maybe this is a good place as we begin to wrap, is what's trying to emerge in my life right now? What's trying to emerge? And really getting present to this now moment, because the now moment is really where our power and our peace resides. It doesn't exist in the future. It certainly doesn't exist in the past. So what's trying to emerge right now? And the more that we can get present to honoring what this fear is wanting to show us, because what is at the root of this, right? It's like it's a call to step into our power, to trust, to cultivate courage, to let go, to whatever it might mean. But most of us just want to push that away and like overcome it. And that's the old paradigm of self-development that no longer serves most of us walking this planet at this time.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. Michelle, where can people go get more of you? Where can they listen to your podcast, follow you on the socials? Where are you online?
Oh, thank you. Everything can be found at michelle-sorro.com, SORRO, no W. Clearly, we talked about that. And the podcast is called Fire and Soul. That's just a really sacred space to deepen into your divine alignment and to further activate. your inner awakening. So it's mostly women like 40 to basically 60. And it's just a real pleasure to get to share in that way.
Oh, I can't wait. I've been looking for a new show. I've been off the podcast circuit for a bit, so I'll have to
Well,
check
I'm
that out.
excited because you get to be a guest on my show in just 2 days. And so I couldn't be more honored. And to build off of this conversation, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. So yeah, so look for Kimberly Rich on the Fire and Soul podcast in probably just a few weeks.
Yay. Well, thank you. This was so nourishing. It feels like such a divine nod, and like, you got this, you're on the right path, all the right people are being magnetized towards you. So thank you for being you, Michelle. I appreciate you so much.
Same, Kim. I got this hit, what was it, 2 months ago? We're like, we need to connect. I've been watching your journey. You've been watching mine. It's a very similar path, and I'm excited to learn more and to really honor, your journey as well. And so I just want to say thank you for saying yes so fast. Like, yes, let's do it. This is New Earth frequency, right? Let's just collaborate and share and bridge two worlds, really, because it's just one.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode with Michelle. If you like this conversation, if you want to go check out more of what Michelle is creating and putting out into the world, then head over to theprofitablecoach.com/044, where you can get access to all of her information and any resources that we shared. Again, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you're not already connected on Instagram, head over to @thekimberlyrich and @Transformation Academy online. If you loved the show, if you want to see more, then do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave us a review on your podcast app of choice, and let us know what kind of content you love to hear. What has been supportive from the Profitable Coach, and what have you implemented? What do you want to know more about? We love hearing from you guys, and we really want to co-create this show in union with the listeners. So sending you so much love, really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.